enrolled at Grove City College as a business major. He decided to focus on accounting because he liked the topic and he had some influential professors that helped him out. In 1979, after Dad graduated, he got his first post-collegiate job at Deloitte. He worked there from 1979 to 1989, where he was able to meet Jeff and Bob. And when he talked about Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but Dad said you're one of the smartest guys that he knows. And so he was maybe the brains behind the operation. And Bob, he said Bob was really the hustler, and he was the go-getter, really helped build the business in the early days. So they made a great team together. So Dad had said he had a meeting that he led with Bob, and they walked away from that meeting with a client and they said, hey, we think we could do this on our own. We kind of ran this meeting, and that's what kind of put the seed in their mind to start their own practice. And then obviously they said, well, we got to get Jeff on board with us. He's going to be key to our success. And so they started having talks about that. And then 1990 is when Grossman, Yanak, and Ford was founded. So their first employee was in 1991, Barb Lubick, and she still works there to this day. So that says something about Dad, about Grossman, Yanak, and Ford. In 1994, that was the first year that they passed $1 million in revenue. 1997 is when they made it up to 20 employees. 2004, they crossed the $5 million mark for revenue. Then 2009, they built their employees up to 50. 2017 saw them cross the $10 million milestone. And 2019, they had 75 employees. Where they ended today, in 2024, they just surpassed $20 million in revenue, and they have over 100 employees that work for them.
Very right.
Amazing to see where GYF started with 3 people to where you guys are with 100 employees and over $20 million in revenue. And Scott said they've been recognized as one of the top places to work in Pittsburgh for 14 years. And they've also reached the status of being the number 13 accounting firm by size in Pittsburgh. So a lot of accomplishments with GYF. And that sets the stage for me to introduce the next person, which is one of his partners, Bob Grossman. He's going to come up and tell a little bit about Dad.
Becky asked if I would be interested or would like to say a few words regarding John's retirement and what it was like working with him for so many years. So I thought I'd jump on this opportunity because I have a lot of grievances and this might be my last chance to get those out. Just kidding, but I can't talk about John and limit my remarks just to working with him because that's really only part of our relationship. And I do apologize, although I don't have to worry too much. They closed the bar, so I'm not holding you back. I try to compartmentalize what I was thinking when I think about John, and I look at it in 4 major facets. The first is our personal friendship, which goes way, way back. Then John's professionalism when I first met him, and his way in which he handled himself, and the way in which he taught me to be a better professional. Also, I'd like to speak for a minute about John's leadership and guidance with Grossman, Yanak, and Ford. We didn't get to 100 employees and grow from 3 schmoes, starting a little practice. I mean, there was a great deal of work and effort, and there was a great deal of contribution by all of us. But John in particular, I feel like made an incredible contribution that needs to be recognized. And then finally, to speak at the end just for a second about John's technical and client service capabilities and responsibilities and his expertise and his role in shaping careers of those around him, both those that worked with him, those who worked for him, and those that were served by John as well. My personal relationship started with John in 1986, as Jay said. I started at Deloitte in January 1st of 1986. I had worked at other firms. I had served in the Army before going to college. So I was a little bit different age profile than the normal person at Deloitte. He worked in what the firm called at that time an Emerging Business Services Group. Is that right? That's what I thought it was called. Jeff worked there as well. These people worked in a group that served smaller clients that were important companies, but not the largest clients that the firm had. And so the focus in this group was on middle-sized and smaller companies. My job was in the tax department, and I was hired to support Jeff and John's clients and other people's clients in that Emerging Business Services Group. One of that group's clients in the spring of 1986 requested to have a tax person lead that engagement for whatever reason, who knows. So there was a transition of a client that John had served in the past. That was the first time I met him. He spent an hour with me. Excuse me one second. The job he did in transitioning that client goes far above and beyond anything that I might have expected. And you know what's unbelievable is I don't really know why that client wanted that transition, but I looked pretty good to that client because I copied everything that John did the year before. And John's work was so far ahead of where I was at that time that I can't tell you how impressed I was. And that was the first introduction I had to John. And so we got to work together a great deal more. Obviously, you can tell I have a great deal of respect for John, and I worked a lot more with Jeff and John in future years. And as we did, as my time there lengthened, we developed a personal relationship and a good friendship. I have a picture, one of the favorite pictures of mine, in my desk at home that I had at my desk at work for years, is Kristen and my son sitting on a horse up at Becky's cabin. Way back, probably 1987, 86, 87, 88, up in Jamestown, riding a horse up there. And we spent a great deal of time over the years talking about not only kids and everything else that comes into everybody's normal life, but the challenges and the dreams that we had as well. So we hit it off. We were both had similar backgrounds, both worked at a gas station, and I challenged whether he ever pumped 3,000. I find that hard to believe based on my personal experience of pumping gas, the same way he described him pumping gas. So, as you would expect, and as everybody experiences in their lifetime, your conversations and your discussions turn to politics and world events, investments, the topics that everybody talks about, but the ones I most appreciated was the talks about family and the talks about personal issues. And John and I shared a lot of stories on everything from screwing up a project around the house to, getting a speeding ticket to home repairs projects, and most of all, family. I remember stories that I'll never forget. A story of you, Kristen, when you guys are getting your family picture at Olin Mills. And everybody knows what a pain in the butt that is. Get everybody dressed up, stuff them in the car, take them to the photographer, and they're sitting there waiting to have the picture taken. And Kristen tells her dad, Dad, I don't really feel good. And he goes, well, just hang on. And a couple of minutes later, she just throws up all over the sample pictures around. John's like, well, we might as well go. We're on a roll here. Stories of, we had stories of Jay playing football, stories of Scotty playing tennis, Indian guys, stayovers, campouts, trips to Jamestown, all those little things that make life what it really is worth. I have stories of you too, Becky, backing into the garage door. we have more stories, but I won't share those here. I know, and as for my family, similar stories were shared. And when I would run into a tough time raising kids or having issues at home, I always shared those with John, and he was always supportive. And he always had advice that was wise, and someone that I think could shed a positive on any situation I've ever encountered. So that's the personal part of my relationship with John. He means a great deal to me. The name of the firm, as you know, is Grossman, Yanak and Ford. I never really thought about it until the other day, but when I was thinking about what I'd like to say, his name's in the middle. And that's as it should be, because he's the link that kept us all together. And he did a great job at that.
That's a compliment. Wow.
I'm blessed to be a part of the firm. I'm blessed to be a great part of the team of people that started this firm, Jeff and John. And as I said, he's the link that holds together. Over the years, people have asked me many times about the relationship we have with the partners, because we've seen a lot of professional firms with people struggling to get along, people breaking up, moving on to other firms, et cetera, whatever you have, you know. And they'd ask me, how come we get along so well over all those years? The thing I always tell them is, and John and Jeff have heard me say this 100 times, there really was only one of the three of us that was a total nitwit, and that was me. So the problem really was theirs and not mine. And I had the benefit of having two people that were incredible accountants, incredible salesmen, and incredible business people to be in business with. So the lives of my children, the lives that we've had, is wholly attributable to the relationship that I have with Jeff and with John for sure. While we all brought different things to the firm contributing to the success, John's leadership was the bulwark and stands out to me as the centerpiece of the firm. He was always articulate, he was always detailed and thorough, and most of all, he was always steady in the manner in which he conducted himself, especially in the administration of the firm and addressing matters that would go from daily business matters to problems. He's exceptional at that, and unless you are part of that with him day in and day out, I don't know if you could ever appreciate it. I can never explain it all here, but I'm confident that that firm was perhaps the best run professional firm in the city, without question. And that perfection and the way that was run was wholly attributable to John. What really makes that amazing on top of that is the guy also carried a full client load on top of that. So, you know, he deserves the kudos and he deserves everything he's ever gained from that process. When we started, it was obvious we would all go down our technical avenues, which is common sense. So I handled tax issues, John and Jeff handled accounting issues, and Jeff handled technology issues. But we also had a division of managerial aspects of the firm too that we thought we would focus on, you know, each guy could focus on. And so while I focused on marketing, Jeff focused on technology, human resources, and continuing professional education and training. John focused on administration. Early on, there was discussions that we would stay in that role for a while, and then we would rotate it so that everybody had a role in it. Now, that was the leadership of each of these administrative functions or each of these managerial functions. We all participated in all of them, but those were the leaders. The problem with rotating that down the road is John, you know, was so good at handling the administration and Jeff the technology. I've never really come to know the true answer of, did we not rotate because John had a grip on the administration and does such a great job, or was it because Jeff happened to see us poking on the computer, decided that neither one of us should ever get close to the mainframe in the office. It could only lead to disaster. So that could be true. I would say in any case, with John in charge of the administration and running that part of the practice, you know, that always made my wife happy because she knew we'd always get paid no matter what. You know, I'm not so sure if I was in charge. John's the best accountant that I know. Not because he has a great deal of understanding or he's the smartest or he knows all the accounting guidance and literature that's out there. He knows what he needs to know, and that's obvious, goes without saying. That's just a given. He's a great accountant because of his acute common sense and the depth of logic that he brings to his clients and his assignments. He has this uncanny sense of just seeing things very plainly and as they are, which is a skill sorely missing in most of the people I've ever met in business. Accounting and tax oftentimes is very much like a puzzle, and you have to put the pieces together. John is more than exceptional at putting those puzzles together and figuring that out. Just as a quick example, my technical role at the firm was handling tax and business valuation and litigation. So I did a lot of work in those areas. All of them required a great deal of training and skill and experience and ongoing professional education to stay up with things. John didn't participate in any of that extra, training and so forth. Nevertheless, I can't count the times, I just cannot count the times that John, without any formal training or education in these areas, offered thoughts and considerations that resulted in the conclusions being changed. Because he has that, again, this incredible ability to see through things to what the underlying problem is. The stories and memories of GYF. Working with John will last me the rest of my years. I'm thankful to have had the opportunity to work with him. My grandfather once told me when I was a young buck to be selective in picking your friends because they ultimately will have a great impact on your life. He noted that you should try to pick friends that you respect and who you think are better than you and have great skills and things that you can learn. Then, if you are an honest and true friend and you work hard and you be observant, maybe some of those great attributes will rub off. I've kind of striven to live by that rule, and I've tried to be more like John in all aspects of my life. For the most part, I really haven't gotten there, but I think I'm a little better person for at least trying. I owe you a great deal. Our next speaker is someone that John and I served together, but has been a client of John's since we worked at the former firm at Deloitte, Askins and Sells in Touche. Georgia Berner has been the president of a company called Berner International Corporation, a manufacturer in Newcastle of air curtains. She has an incredible story herself, someone who went through several difficult moments earlier in life. Her husband passed in an airplane accident. She stepped in, took over the company, ran the company for many years, made it very successful. She's someone that Jeff, John, and I all admire deeply. She has been someone who has been supportive of Grossman, Yanak, and Ford, the three of us, beyond any expectations we might have had in the past. And she's someone that we admire really greatly. And Georgia's going to make a few comments as well. So, Georgia.
Bob, I don't know what I'm going to say. You said it all. I mean, you really did, and it was, and that made it very, very special that we would both say the same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one thing I will add, and it's part of what I've written, but I'm going to add it first, is that I took everything over. And I knew nothing, and I found out later. Corporate attorneys in Pittsburgh started telling me that I was working with one of the best accountants they had ever met, John Yanak, and I took him for granted. I mean, I didn't know, there were people who weren't this good. Not for me. I had the best. So anyway. It is my pleasure and an honor to be here today. My 4 children and my sister all send you their love and are jealous that they're not here. And they're all over the country. And I've known John for 41 years. And yesterday was the 41st anniversary of my husband's death. And that's how I came to meet John. And Jeff and Bob. When Christian died and I inherited the company, manufacturing air curtains in Newcastle, I decided to run it myself because I thought that nobody would care about the company and our four children the way I would. So I took it on. and I had no experience. I actually asked Deloitte to send somebody up to the company to teach me. I didn't even know what a balance sheet and an income statement, I didn't even know what they were. And somebody came up and spent 2 days with me, which was fantastic. It wasn't you, it was a lovely young woman in a red suit. That I remember. Anyway, and one of the interesting things about when you inherit a company like that is that you immediately have 3 new best friends: a corporate attorney, a banker, and a CPA. All 3 people I didn't know, but we worked it out, and we did very well together. And later John came along, and a few years into our work together, he called me one day and asked if I would support him starting his own firm. And by that time, I'd had a few years at work, and I really understood being an entrepreneur, because I didn't start the company, but I grew the company and I learned the company. And I was like, yeah, go for it. What a great thing to do. I totally support entrepreneurs. And I believed that John and Jeff and Bob would be able to do it. And I was right. John is a man of infinite patience and kindness. And as I said, that's what my bankers and attorneys have told me. Surprised me by saying. And they actually talk about you, which is nice, I think. And as I said, I didn't know that this was unusual. So we've had a long and successful relationship together, and I have known John's family from a distance. Becky and the children. John and I used to meet at King's off of 79 in Wexford a couple of times a year, and just laugh hysterically at the hijinks that our kids were doing. we really, I don't know, I think we were supposed to talk about business, but we'd always end up talking about the kids and the crazy things they were doing. So my kids were just as crazy as all of you. So I gave as good as I got. That was fun. Grossman, Yanak, and Ford has grown. Berner has grown. And here we are today celebrating your life's work. Thank you, thank you. I am so happy you called and asked me to participate. And here we are together.
Very nice.
About his job growing up. When you're a kid, you're too self-centered to care about what is going on in someone else's life. You care mostly about yourself and how your needs and wants are met. I know this because my kids have no interest in my job and what I do all day. So my memories of my dad's work growing up were meeting him at his cool office in a big skyscraper to go to a Pirate game or go do something fun downtown. And as I got into my teens, this has been mentioned, but occasionally I would go in and help shred paper or do some random cleaning, and I think this was mostly to get me out of my mom's hair, not because it was actually helpful to anyone at all. And in adulthood, I will confess that I still don't understand much of my dad's job. Being in the education field, accounting is just not my wheelhouse. But however, now that I'm an adult, I do fully realize what incredible thing my dad did in starting his own company and building it to where it is today. I can't imagine how stressful it was to take that leap so many years ago and set off on his own. He had a family to consider. I don't think I realized how young we were when they said the year. I didn't realize how young we were when he started it. And I'm sure that is what motivated to make it successful in those early years. The times I did witness my dad in a professional setting, I just remember being amazed at how much people respected and listened to him. My dad, who goofed around with us at home, was someone's boss. People listened to him and did what he said, even when we didn't half the time. So when Dave and I were talking about this, he mentioned this, and I wanted to include it. One of the indicators of great leadership is the impact you have on those you supervise. And I was not able to make it to my dad's retirement luncheon that the firm had for him, but I heard all about it and the wonderful things that his clients and his employees had to say about him. And while his presence won't be at the firm anymore, his influence lives on in the people that he has impacted there. And as a working adult now with 3 kids of my own, I realize the blessings I received as a result of my dad's hard work. All 3 of us kids were involved in multiple activities growing up, from sports to piano lessons to mission trips through church. And I now realize the cost of all these things as I pay for my own kids' activities. So we never didn't have to do anything because of his hard work. My parents were able to pay for my college education, and I was able to graduate without any debt, which was a huge blessing. And my parents gave me a beautiful wedding, which we were talking about, the rehearsal dinner was here, so it's kind of full circle, that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it's just an awesome blessing that they could give me. And these are tangible blessings, but there were so many other intangible blessings, such as learning the value of hard work, being a good steward, and giving back to others. All of this was because I had a dad that modeled the value of hard work. And I wanted to end I think this night would be a huge miss without acknowledging the person who was probably the most influential in my dad's career, and that's my mom. Again, as a kid, I did not realize all the sacrifices she made for us, but now as a mom myself with 3 kids, I realize how much she did for us. She set aside her career to raise us and support my dad in his endeavors. If you asked her, she would say that she gladly did this, but I'm sure there were days or weeks it was hard as she was raising 3 young kids as my dad put in some very long hours. And while I didn't know much about what my dad did as a kid, I had a front row seat to her career. And as Jay and Scott can attest, she was an expert in her field. She was arranging play dates, letting all the neighborhood kids play at our house. We have so many neighborhood friends here, and that's a testament to her. Taking us places, getting us involved in school and church activities, volunteering at our school, and honestly, the list goes on and on. So everything I am and strive to be as a mom, I learned from watching her do it day in and day out. So while she wasn't entertaining clients or managing personnel like my dad was, she was doing it in a different way. She made things calm and stable at home so my dad could focus on his career. So Mom, I hope you take credit for Dad's long and successful career, for you were an equal partner, even though you might have been in the background at times. So in conclusion, Dad, thanks for being a wonderful example of leadership and hard work, both in your company and in our family. Mom, thanks for your self-sacrificing love and all you did for us growing up. We love you.
When I think about Dad, I think about someone that is incredibly value-centered. If you know my dad, there's just certain things that he cares about, and he's going to stay faithful to those things no matter what. So some of those things, I've heard people say at GYF would be integrity. Integrity is one that sticks out to me. His relentless pursuit of quality, as Bob said, just his attention to detail and wanting to give a good product to the people that he served. Diligence. When I talked to Dad about how did you grow GYF from 3 to 100, and he really didn't have like a really good answer. He was just kind of like, we just kept doing what we started out doing, and we gained a reputation. So there's this idea of just sticking to it and being diligent, and perseverance. So yes, there was hard times. But there was never an idea of giving up or changing who he was or who GYF was along the way. But the thing I actually want to talk about as I think about one of my dad's values, and some of you guys have already mentioned that, but is his value of family and how I saw that as he balanced work and how he brought that to work, and how he used that to bless other families as well. So I think throughout my dad's career, I think he did three things really well. One was dad did his best not to bring work home to family. Two, dad did his best to bring family to work. And then three, dad blessed other families through his work. So first, I remember dad as someone who was really able to do the whole work family thing really well, which is something that a lot of people struggle with. I remember as a boy almost counting down the minutes to when dad was going to come home. And mom would be making a meal perfectly timed up to when dad would get home. But we had this little routine where dad would come in, he'd set his stuff down, and as a little boy I would run into his arms and he'd pick me up, hoist me up, and give me the biggest hug. And I just look forward to that every day. Was that. And it seemed like whatever stressors or things were going on at work, those all just seemed to be eclipsed by being home with family. Now, there were certainly times that I can remember where dad did bring work home with him. There's some stress, sometimes a little bit more quiet at the dinner table. There's the migraines that he had that just caused him to be horizontal on the couch for the night. And there was a couple weekends that I remember, or Sundays, where he had to finish up some project. But those moments really were few and far between. Overwhelmingly, I remember dad as someone who was always there and that we could always count on. Dad was always at the dinner table throughout the week. He was there for family time, yard work on the weekends, sporting events, and he was there for church on Sundays. Some of my favorite memories growing up were playing Little League Baseball in Bridgeville. Mike was the head coach for our childhood. But I love those nights of playing baseball in Bridgeville, being with dad, and afterwards getting a fun dip and a slushie at the concession stand, and then watching the older kids play afterwards. And, after a busy day or week, it would have been easy for dad to check out or say, I don't have time to help with coaching. But he chose to be a part of our lives and the things that were important to us. I'll also make a note here, too, that dad's main coaching responsibility, one of them, was keeping the books. So the stat sheets. So I remember that.
Somebody had to do it.
And dad's involvement and priority of family remained consistent throughout our lives, whether it was cheering us on in sports, activities, encouraging us to get our first job. Mine was at age 12, so there's some child labor laws I think we might have moved around there. Helping me get my lawn mowing business started and making sure that we made the best college decision by all attending Grove City College. So Dad, thank you for being present with us, always being there and doing your best not to bring work home to family. Next, some observations on how I saw Dad bring family to work. As Kristen said, it was a little bit limited, but I remember going downtown, whether it was for a Pirate game or some downtown event, and how proud we were to visit the office and see the sparkling GYF sign as you walked in. But the coolest thing for us was free pop from the vending machines. And the copy machine. The copy machine was the best. And so I remember putting our head underneath there and almost blinding ourselves. So we tried to make copies of our heads. But also I remember checking out Dad's office. You could see those family photos, those awkward stage family photos, front and center on the wall or on the desk. And while small, it just sent a message to me that even at work, Dad was keeping family front and center. There were also days, like you said, where I was able to help work, organizing files, shredding papers, and the shredding paper, that was tough. I mean, just when you thought you were done, just when you thought you'd finished the last papers, in would come in another employee with a big stack, and it was like this never-ending journey that you were on shredding paper. But I'd say maybe that was a blessing, and maybe that was the reason why I didn't go into accounting in the first place. So that was part of what I learned during that time. I also knew that Dad was at work. He was always just a call away. There were many times where I needed to phone Dad, and it was before cell phones. And so I remember being connected with Lisa, his secretary, and I'd say, need to talk to Dad. And Dad always seemed like he had time, and he was never too busy to take my call. So Dad, thanks for doing your best to bring your family, make your family a part of work. And finally, as I talk about Dad, and as I talk to him about the history of GYF, the theme that I think seemed to emerge the most for me as what he was most proud of was the relationships and the family aspect of it. So when Dad started GYF, he stated how important his relationship was with Bob and with Jeff. They were people that he looked up to, that he felt made him better, and that he really trusted and he leaned on during those early times. And so in a way, I think he felt like you guys were like family to him. And when Dad talked about the culture that he tried to create at GYF, he talked about how he wanted it to be both highly professional but also highly personal and relational. He wanted everyone to be treated with honor, dignity, and respect. And maybe some of those people, if you talk to Barb or some of those long-term employees, they would say that GYF felt like family for them. And when Dad talked about the target clients that he tried to serve, he said, we focused on small and medium-sized businesses. I said, why did you do that? Why was that your target? And a big reason why was because he felt like he could be more personal and he could be more relational with them. And so there was a value with his customers that he served that he wanted to know them, and they wanted them to know him as well. And so they wanted to feel like family as well. And Georgia, you can probably speak to that as well. And finally, when I asked him to reflect on his career and say what was the kind of the most rewarding, element of their career as you reflect on it. And he didn't primarily focus on the success that I chose to highlight, with the number of employees and the revenue and being one of the best firms to work for in Pittsburgh. He said, I think the annual Christmas parties that we had, where I was able to look out and see all the lives and families that we were able to help through our business, and also being able to celebrate people as they built their own families. And so I think there was an element of him seeing how GYF and his work was able to be a blessing to the people that work for him. And I want to read just a quote for you. This is one of my favorite leadership authors. But I think, Dad, you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but didn't you at a time have a thought of maybe becoming a priest?
I did.
Okay.
It's a good thing I did not.
Yeah. So there was a desire at one point for Dad to do ministry. And I've similarly had that desire as well, and I've chosen to go into business as well. So this quote really kind of resonates with me. I think speaks to Dad as well. This author says, I've always thought that it was a shame that more people don't go into giving professions. In fact, I have occasionally felt pangs of guilt that I didn't choose a career that was completely focused on serving others. I have deep admiration for dedicated and hardworking clergy, social workers, or missionaries. And I wonder why I haven't abandoned my career and moved into one of those kinds of jobs. And while I have not completely abandoned the idea of one day doing that, I have come to the realization that all leaders can and really should view their work as ministry, a service to others. By helping people find engagement in their work and helping them succeed in whatever they're doing, a leader can have profound impact on the emotional, financial, physical, and spiritual health of workers and their families. They can also create an environment where employees do the same for their peers, giving them a sort of ministry of their own, all of which is nothing short of a gift from God. So one of the things that I think you can you can realize that is that you did have a ministry, and that you did provide generational blessing, not only for your family, but for the families of those who had the privilege of working for you. You were able to impact not only their financial well-being, but through the culture you created, their lives as well. And so lastly, as we think about this theme of family, in retirement, I'm sure that's going to be the number one thing that you're looking forward to the most is more time with family. So enjoy, and thank you for everything.
Very good.
Invest in your own community. So the first thing, as you heard Jay and Kristen both talk about, is that Dad always put his family first. Quite honestly, we didn't know a lot about what was going on at Dad's work because family time was sacred. He was really good at keeping it separate. And he knew how to be present and to balance work life and family life. He was oftentimes waking up at 6 a.m. on the weekends to drive me to tennis matches in the morning and helping me set up my first house when I moved. He's been present in every step of our lives. He's always prioritized putting family first. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing was my dad's really hard work ethic. His hardworking attitude that has gotten to where he is today was instilled in all of us really early on. There's always a list of things to do around the house, and I would begrudgingly do chores around the house and sometimes intentionally be more of a hassle than actual help in the hope that I wouldn't be asked to do these things again. But now I see what Dad was doing, and I'm very grateful that he insisted on giving us tasks and responsibilities. As a result of doing these chores, we earned some money, and simultaneously, he taught us the importance of saving at an early age. I fondly remember going to the bank and being so excited when I brought a roll of quarters that made my account balance finally reach $100. The last thing I wanted to mention was how my dad modeled treating other people and the importance of investing in your community. Beyond the success of the firm itself, one of my dad's many accomplishments has been creating a really healthy work culture that puts people first. Being one of the top places to work in Pittsburgh for several consecutive years is evidence of this. And GYF has been more than just a workplace for so many, as you've heard. It's also been a community and a family. I've seen my dad's deep commitment to community also through both his and my mom's generosity and dedication to their church. They've given freely of their time, energy, and hearts, living out a true spirit of service to a place that has given so much to our family in return. Both my mom and dad, their quiet and consistent example has shown me what it means to be a leader with compassion. So, Dad, although you may be closing out a remarkable balance sheet of a career, your impact will be lasting. You've built an amazing community both professionally and personally, and the impact of your leadership is reflected in everybody who's here today. So cheers to more restful mornings, long golf drives, and a new sense of purpose in this next season of life. You deserve every minute of it.
Very good.
Cliche, but it does take a village to raise a family, and this is why each one of you was invited to this celebration, because in your own way you've encouraged and loved on us through all the seasons of our lives and through the seasons of John starting his firm and raising our family, and for that we are very appreciative. We've talked a lot about John making a living and providing a living, and one of the things I want to, and it's been said by everybody, is just that is what you did, but you also provided a life. And it's a life that I really didn't expect that I would have such joy and such provision by you, John. And I want to thank you for that. Over the years, you've provided well for our family, not only financially, but you provided a life where we have felt loved and we felt security and we have felt cared for. And so for that, I thank you. And I thank all of you for supporting us in this journey, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All the remarks that have been made, by my family and friends, and taking the time, during the holiday weekend to be here. The comments are really quite overwhelming. I was just talking to somebody else, and I think, you go through life in your family and your career, and I don't want to say you're always going through the motions, but there's so many things that you're doing that are routine, and you wonder, are they making an impact on your family, on your business, on the people that you work with, right? And I'm ready to move to my second career. I've already been recruited via text message and emails to chauffeur and watch my grandchildren, to complete odd jobs for my kids, to address a honey-do list for my bride, and to play more golf. So I'm excited about all of those things, quite frankly. And I just want to talk about, some of the blessings in my personal life. My children and, the rest of you have mentioned these things. I would start by saying my family background was very modest and could be described, my parents were very, very practical people. They raised us to have a good work ethic and values, as well as having a good perspective on life and a sense of humor. Those traits have served my sister and I very well over 60 plus years. I still miss my parents and appreciate the impact that they had on my life. My parents, like Becky and I, they paid for my college education. On my mother's side, I was the first to attend college. On my dad's side, the only reason my dad was able to go to college was because he went under the GI Bill. He was a World War II combat veteran, and he grew up in a mill town with 7 brothers and sisters, 7 siblings. So going to college wouldn't have been a reality unless he had served his country. And I always appreciated him for what he did. I don't think we ever knew about the sacrifice that he made and the impact that it had on his life, and then, the impact that it had on our lives as well. I don't want to go into that in any great detail today, but he certainly sacrificed a lot. It impacted him personally, and it impacted the way that he looked at life and what he encouraged us to do. But after attending Grove City, I did work at Deloitte for about 11 years, and at that time, I had the extremely good fortune of meeting Bob and Jeff, the best of partners, with whom I shared not only a rewarding professional career, but great, great friendships. We had similar values and career objectives. Our skill sets complemented each other most of the time, right? Most of the time.
What a Freudian slip, my God.
Yeah, a little Freudian slip there. And I think, as Jay mentioned, we supported each other along the way. We all had challenges personally and professionally. And when we encountered those, we supported each other and helped each other get through those situations. And together we built a firm that now numbers over 100 people and that is well regarded in the business community for technical ability, client service, and culture, the things that the three of us really were most focused on. As Bob mentioned, importantly, we had clients that placed their trust in us at the beginning when the firm was unknown, like dear friend Georgia Berner, who I have worked with for over 40 years. And, we appreciate that endorsement that you gave us, and you're going along with us when we were unknown. We continue to appreciate that, and we appreciate the clients that allow us to serve them today as trusted advisors. Starting our firm in 1990 was not without its challenges and risks. As I think Kristen mentioned, Becky was a stay-at-home mother. Our children were 6, 4, and 1 at the time, and she was the primary giver to our children, and she just did an incredible job raising our children. Becky supported our venture wholeheartedly and was a partner in every sense of the word. She stood with me and shared in the joys of successes, as well as the letdowns that come in life, those bumps along the road. Importantly, she's challenged me and made me better over the course of 46 years, and continues to do so. I think I'm still a work in process, like most men, right? So
We're reminded.
I very much appreciate everything that you've done along the way. As somebody else mentioned, she took care of things at home. I was able to concentrate on work during the day, and even when I came home at night, I was able to relax and didn't have as much of the child care responsibilities as she did. So our 3 children, Kristen, Jay, and Scott, and their spouses, partners, Dave, Lissa, and Kaushik, have been a source of great joy, and we're very proud of them. We have a colorful family, as many of you probably know just from the stories that you've heard about our children. They have different views and values that sometimes result in challenges, but we've successfully worked through these situations and have strong family relationships. I appreciate each of you, and I appreciate and very much love our grandchildren, Ezra, Faith, Joel, and Truett, as well as our extended family members that add so much to our lives. Life wouldn't be as full either without the good friends and neighbors that we have. Most are here this evening. Those include people that have known us for over 55 years, like Jenny Brett. Jenny actually babysat me when I was about 11, I think. And those late in life friends that are important to our lives. We appreciate you, and we look forward to spending more time with each of you. Just in finishing, more thanks to my loving family for this fun event. It's been quite overwhelming, to say the least. And thank you all for the abundance that contributes to our personal lives, and for the nice evening, and for sharing the kind words and the very funny stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you.